morning class, and welcome to Grade 10 English, Unit 9, Lesson number 3. My name is Regine Dedicatoria, your English teacher for today. Before we start, let us all stand for a prayer. Roxanne will lead the prayer. Amen. Once again, good morning class. How was your weekend? How was your weekend banding with your family? That's good to hear. So let's check first your attendance. Very good. You get a perfect attendance. Now, let's have a review. What was our lesson last time? Very good. Our lesson last time or our lesson yesterday is all about the basic parts of the sentence. And what are those? All right, those are subject and predicate. And how does predicate and the subject related to each other? Perfect. So here's our objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to define analytical listening and its sequential process, sustain interest in studying analytical listening to solve existing problems, and last, portray a scenario that shows active listening. So let's have a game. This game will be named Message Relay. You are familiar with this game, right? Okay, you will group into three, and then each group will create a line. The first person in front will come to me and listen carefully to what I say. Then later, you will go back to your line and relay to your group mates. Then the last person at the back will present it to me for the final message, okay? For the correct message. So, let's get started. So, did you enjoy the game? Very good. So, let's have another activity. This activity is named storytelling activity. After I read to you my story, after I read the story, you will retell it to the class. So, you will be grouped again by 5. Then, each group will present the retelling of the story, okay? So this story is entitled Hard Work Key to a Gold Mine. In a faraway village lives a hardworking farmer who has grape fields. Year after year, his grapery gives rich harvest and the farmer becomes very successful. He has 3 sons, who are young and energetic, but never bother to work. As the farmer grows old, he begins to worry about his son's future. Then he falls ill and realizes his death is fast approaching. He called his sons and told them, "Dear sons, I see my death near me, but before I bid goodbye to you, I want to share a secret." He told them, "There is a treasure hidden under the fields. I dig the entire field after my death to find it." The old farmer dies, and his sons perform the last rites. The sons begins to dig for the treasure without leaving any part of the field, but found nothing. However, their digging of the field leads to the cultivation of healthy crop and results in huge earnings. These earnings makes the sons realize what their father meant. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Are you listening? These might some of the words that you usually hear when you talk to someone or attend to a seminar. But do you know that hearing is different from listening? So hearing is accidental, involuntary, and effortless, while listening is focused, voluntary, and intentional. So as you students, you are exposed to many kinds of messages in the classroom, right? You listen or hear many information, such as rules, agendas, instructions, and warnings. You also hear information from advertisements, gossips, jokes, and song lyrics. Among the macro skills, such as speaking, listening, reading, viewing, writing, listening is the first one that you must learn. Aside from that, it is a familiar part of our everyday experience. So, in this case, in order for you to solve the problem, listening is, listening must be developed and practiced first. So, there are four types of listening: the passive, attentive, appreciative, and analytical. For passive, it is the hearing or coding the sound, but you just simply ignores as you will go to another task. Like it is just voluntary. That's it. While for attentive listening, the listener focuses attention and shows interest in what is being said. He or she takes notes of the important details and how they relate to the main points made by the speaker. So it gives focus. For number three, the appreciative listening, it gives the listener a pleasure, maybe from the humor or chronic arrangement. So for the last, the analytical listening, which is our topic for today, this is to evaluate the content of the message or making mental judgments based on what you see, hear, and read. Have you ever had to buy an expensive item such as car, appliances, cell phone, laptop, or iPad? Probably before buying the item, you have done the research. I mean, you are actually listen closely to the salesperson when you were to compare brands. Or perhaps your friend had a problem. You had to listen carefully so that you can lend them a hand for help, right? Both scenario are examples of analytical or critical listening. So, how do we characterize this last type of listening, which is the analytical listening? Take note that the word evaluate or evaluating the content of the messages you are listening or you hear from the speaker is to analyze it and also understand. Being an analytical listener, you are also critically thinking. Your goal as an analytical listener is to evaluate what is being said so that problems or concerns may be solved. So, as I am said earlier, that when you are an analytical listener, you have also an active listening skills. So, these are the characteristics of active listening skills. You have to build trust and establish rapport, ask a specific questions. Active listening techniques can help you truly understand what people are saying in conversations and meetings. And you can use brief verbal affirmation like I see. And you can also demonstrate concern. So, when you are analytically listener, you are using critical thinking skills. So, what is critical thinking skills? It is the act of analyzing facts to understand a problem or topic thoroughly. So, when you are having a critical thinking skills, you can define the problem, you can think the solution, and then you can apply it. So, this is the image of the sequential process of effective analytical listening. So, the first one is to receive, second is understand, evaluate, respond, and remember. So, when we say receiving stage, it is refers to the actual listening process. Then, for number two, the understand stage, this is the stage in which the listener determine the context and meaning of the words heard. For number three, the evaluating stage, the listener determine whether or not information be heard and understood by the speaker. For number four, the responding stage, this is to provide verbal and non-verbal feedback. The listener can respond to what they heard either verbally or non verbally. So, nonverbal, the examples of nonverbal are those signals that are nodding, making eye contact, and smiling, and a lot of body languages. For the last, the remembering stage, it is includes asking questions or repeating the integrating information attained from the messages to real life. So there are steps to solve the problem. So the first step will be define the problem, generate alternative solutions, evaluate and select an alternative, implement and follow up on the solution, then take the actions. When we say define the problem, it is to diagnose the situation. Generate the alternative solution, this is to consider multiple solutions. Then number three, evaluate and select an alternative, it is when you assess the best alternative. The number four, you can implement or you can apply the action. Class, do you have any questions? If none, let's go to our activity.
You might have received this most frequently given advice, which says, dream big. But those who give us this advice never tell us how to. I remember I was 12 years old. My mother taught me two really, really important things. So I thought that I must share those two things with you because these really helped me throughout my journey. The first thing was how to dream big. And secondly, the power of manifestation. I was born in Rahim Yar Khan, a small city in southern Punjab, Pakistan. As I mentioned earlier, I was 12 years old, and this incident happened during my summer break when all my friends had gone for summer vacations, and I couldn't go. That made me really sad, and throughout that summer break, I went quiet. I remember one night I was sitting in my garden outside, looking at the stars quietly. My mother knew something was off. She knew I was sad. So she came outside and she sat right next to me and asked me, "What is it? What is bothering you?" And I, being a 12-year-old, started cribbing and complaining about everything. I told her that I wish I could go for a vacation like my friends. Or maybe I'm not lucky enough as my friends. I wish I was born in a bigger, better city. And my complaints kept going on and on. My mother sat next to me quietly, patiently, and she listened to all that I had to say. She didn't say a word. And after a few minutes, she said, "Look, what's up there? Do you see an airplane going?" I looked at the sky and I said, "Yes." She smiled and she said, "That's Muniba's airplane going somewhere." I looked at my mother and I said, "This is not funny. You don't have to try to make me laugh because I'm really sad." She smiled again and she repeated the same words again. She said, "Look, that's Muniba's flight going somewhere." I told her that I cannot even go in a train, let alone going somewhere in an airplane. Stop. This is not funny. She smiled again and repeated what she said. "Look, that's Muniba's flight going somewhere." Instead of making me happy, I started crying more and I said, "Mama, you will never understand what I'm going through." So I went in my room and I cried some more. Well, years and years went by and that 12-year-old became me. I was invited by UN Women to share my story globally at UN Women headquarters in New York. So when I was leaving for US for the very first time in my life, when I was leaving for the airport, I remember I gave a big hug to my mother. And when I was leaving, she held my hand tight and she said, "So, Muniba's flight has finally arrived." That moment was one of the most defining moments of my life. Because in that moment, I realized that when I said that, Mama, you will never understand what I'm going through, my mother exactly knew what I was going through. How, in such a subtle and beautiful way, she was teaching me the power of manifestation. How, in such a beautiful way, she made me realize that even a girl in a small town has the power to dream big. And while I was busy complaining, my mother was manifesting my best future by repeating one sentence over and over again. So, yes, today if I come across as a dreamer or as a humble achiever, it's all because of my mother. But here is a question. Did Muniba's flight come that easy? The answer is no. There is no such thing as instant dream fulfillment. Dreaming big is the first step. But if you want to achieve that dream, it requires each and every ounce of your energy. You don't get lucky overnight. In fact, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So if you want to dream big, go ahead. But make sure you need to work hard as much as possible. I would like to dedicate this video to my amazing mother who made me what I am today. And let me say this, that all that I am and I aim and hope to be, I owe it to my mother. This video is also for all those amazing mothers who believe in their children, who teach their children to dream big. So yes, this is the time to dream big. This is the time to aim high, to work hard, and to believe in yourself.
Okay, class, you can answer the questions in a one-half sheet of paper, and you are given just only 5 minutes in answering the questions and pass the papers right after, okay? Do you have any questions, comments, clarification in our topic for today? Really? Did you understand? Okay, for our last activity, so the class will be grouped again into four, and each group will select a leader. Then given the different scenario for each group, you will portray and present it to the class. So given the scenario for group 1, you will portray attending to a seminar, someone or somebody attending to a seminar. For group 2, a teacher and the students interaction. Group 3, a shy type girl having her speech. Group 4, a man giving his advice. Okay? Okay, class, I guess you need more time to practice. So, I I decided that you will present that role play or you will present that tomorrow. Then, before we go, you can take note your assignment. So, your assignment will be advanced reading about cybercrime. Okay, class, that's all for today. Bye bye.